A true story, from the boy scrubbing toilets to the man whose chips power the world. Born in Taiwan in 1963, Jensen Huang's life was supposed to follow a prestigious path. When he was just 9, he and his older brother were sent to the United States. The plan was a perfect top-tier private boarding school. But a simple mix-up changed everything. Instead of the elite academy their parents envisioned, the two young boys arrived at the Oneida Baptist Institute in Kentucky, a reform school for troubled youth. This wasn't a cushioned education. It was a challenging, unpredictable world, far from home, where Huang barely understood the language. He was forced to adapt fast. Survival meant controlling his emotions in an often hostile environment. Every day had a demanding chore, and for the future tech titan, that chore was the most humbling: scrubbing toilets and cleaning the communal bathrooms. He never speaks of this with bitterness. In fact, he looks back with a sense of pride. He once joked to a room full of engineering students, "I cleaned more toilets than anyone here." That harsh, unexpected beginning wasn't a footnote. It was the first lesson in resilience, discipline, and humility. The foundation for the man who would one day build the $4 trillion company powering the entire AI revolution. After finally reuniting with his family in Oregon, Huang picked up his education, but the struggle wasn't over. To help make ends meet, he took the toughest job he could find that fit his high school and college schedule: the graveyard shift at Denny's. He didn't have one job. He had every job: dishwasher, busboy, janitor, waiter, night after night, cycling through every single role under the harsh, buzzing fluorescent lights. He would later joke, "I was the best dishwasher Denny's ever had. Eventually, I got promoted to busboy." This wasn't a resume-building internship. This was a brutal test of endurance. Nights spent elbow-deep in soapy water, fueled by caffeine, balancing demanding schoolwork with exhausting shifts. This grind taught him the core rules of success: the dignity of hard work, the discipline of showing up on time, and the seriousness required for every task. He wasn't polishing code, he was polishing tables. But that non-stop cycle forged the foundation of his leadership. As the old saying goes, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. Those early storms, the reform school, the graveyard shifts, sharpened the mindset that would soon help him steer a tiny startup named Nvidia through its own rough and uncertain beginnings. In 1993, Jensen Huang joined forces with two co-founders, Chris Malachowski and Curtis Priem. They scraped together their savings, just $40,000, to start a company with no guarantees of success. At a time when the entire tech world was obsessed with the central processing unit, CPU, Huang made a daring long-term bet on something most people didn't believe in: visual computing and the enormous graphical power it would eventually require. He was betting on a future no one else could see. Nvidia's early years were anything but smooth. They were marked by failed prototypes, near-death experiences, and ideas that simply arrived before the world was ready. But Huang's deep technical expertise and unwavering vision kept the company pushing forward. The breakthrough finally came in 1999 with the launch of the GeForce 256, widely recognized as the world's first graphics processing unit, or GPU. It was a turning point that redefined an industry. Overnight, the GPU transformed gaming and set a completely new standard for computing. With that single invention, Nvidia began the climb that would define its future. Huang was never a CEO in name only. He was, and remains, deeply immersed in engineering and strategy, personally demonstrating the hardware and championing the GPU's potential long before the world truly understood its significance. This hands-on leadership allowed Nvidia to reinvent itself again and again, evolving from a gaming company into the true powerhouse it is today, dominating AI, data centers, and autonomous vehicles. While others hit the ceiling, Huang simply pushed past the horizon, driving his company toward the next unseen future. Fast forward to the 2020s. That bold bet on the GPU is no longer a gaming feature. It's the foundation of the modern world. Under Huang's direction, Nvidia didn't just join the AI revolution, it became its most critical infrastructure provider. As AI exploded, from training large language models like GPT to powering every cutting-edge research lab, the demand for Nvidia's chips became a frenzy. Their flagship chips, the H100 and GH200, are now the essential engines of artificial intelligence, powering the data centers of Google, Meta, OpenAI, Tesla, and virtually every major player in the field. Huang, the man who started by scrubbing floors, was suddenly standing at the center of global power. This decades-long journey of resilience and risk culminated in a spectacular financial moment. In 2024, Nvidia briefly surged past both Apple and Microsoft in market value, a meteoric ascent that cemented Huang's place among the greatest tech CEOs in history. It was a validation of endless work. As Huang describes the pace, running Nvidia is like running a marathon at sprint pace. For him, that pressure isn't a burden, it's the engine driving the future. Despite his immense global fame and the trillion-dollar valuation of his company, Jensen Huang remains strikingly grounded, often seen in his signature leather jacket. He credits his success not to brilliance or luck, but to the lessons forged long before the boardroom: discipline, failure, and humility. Jensen Huang's journey, from washing dishes and scrubbing toilets to becoming the most powerful figure in global computing, is far more than a rags-to-riches tale. It is a masterclass in how adversity sharpens ambition and a reminder that intelligence alone doesn't build empires. Resilience, character, and conviction do. From the reform school halls of Kentucky, his rise shaped an entire technological era. He is not just building chips, he is building the future, and he has never forgotten where he started. For every student, immigrant, and underdog who dreams beyond their circumstances, Jensen Huang stands as living proof. You don't need a silver spoon to forge a golden legacy.